And we are rolling on October 26th here at UCLA for part 2 of our film speeches, where it's a beautiful day. The sunshine is shining a little bit warmly today. And we're about to hear from Natalie, who will share with us a film that really moved her.
Hi, my name's Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Jean-Luc Godard once said that cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. Now, cinema is a beautiful thing. It offers so much. It offers to the young, the old, tall, the short, the blind, the deaf, the dumb, and that's because cinema appeals to our senses, and it has something different for each of us. So, I'm going to tell you today about a film that moved me. This film is a 2005 version of Pride and Prejudice. It made me feel nostalgic for my own sister. It made me feel sad over the music and how that related to my life, and it made me feel hopeful in the end due to the goodness of people. So I think you'll really enjoy learning about this film. Even Peter Travers of the Rolling Stone magazine once said that even the most rabid Janeites must allow that director Joe Wright in this version of the film creates a beguilingly youthful spin on the presentation, as well as being careful not to compromise its late 18th century manners. So first I'd like to tell you a little bit of how this film made me feel nostalgic. It made me feel nostalgic when the sisters all rush down the stairs at the beginning of the movie. All 5 sisters go up and they go to their parents' doorway and they put their ears against the door because they're trying to hear their parents talk about a new suitor that's moved to town. Now, the one thing that you can tell from the scene is all the sisters are very, very close. This reminded me of my own sister. I'm actually a twin, and college is the first time we've been separated. So it's been really hard, but what I remember is when we were little, on Christmas morning, we'd make a pact at 5 o'clock, and we'd run down to our parents' room, and like the sister, we'd put our ears against the door, and we'd see if they were awake. Mind you, this was like 5 a.m., so my parents were probably not awake. We were trying to go downstairs to race down and open our stockings and things like that. But even though this is just a silly example, and we'd laugh and scold each other for being too loud, it was something that drew us close together every year, and so I really miss that. And so that's one of the ways that this film made me feel nostalgic. Now, this film also made me feel sad. So not for the most obvious ways, but this film has a beautiful score, and so at the very beginning of the story, they do a whole panning across to see the Longbourn Bennet estate. So you're seeing the house and all the girls are walking up, but it's underscored by this song called Dawn, and it's a piano solo. And actually, I've been playing piano for about 13 years, so it reminded me of when I played in my 10th recital, I played Clair de Lune. Now, Clair de Lune is, for those of you who know, is a beautiful piece filled with a lot of emotional tones. And so just playing this piece and hearing this piece in the story just brought me back to a time when my piano teacher and I would play together, and sadly now she's had to move to a nursing home within the last few months. She has arthritis in her hands and she can't play anymore, but it reminded me of when we used to play together and how proud of me she was. So it brought me back to that time. As well as sad, this film also made me feel hopeful. So in the story, Mr. Darcy saves the Bennet family from ruin by paying off Mr. Wickham to marry their youngest daughter, Lydia. So although my story isn't exactly the same as this, it showed me the goodness of people and how they're willing to do something if they have the means to. I remember coming back from a music performance with my best friend Henry. We were walking down the street and we saw this homeless man ask us for a few dollars. Instead of just giving him money, my friend Henry actually got down and asked him for his order, and we walked down the street and he ordered him 2 meals. He came back, and instead of just offering him the meals, he sat down and had a conversation with him about his day. We learned all about his background and his history, about where he came from and when his parents immigrated here. And I realized that this act of goodness is not that common, and just sitting down and asking him about how his day was going totally changed his mood and allowed him to be his best self. So just seeing the goodness in people really brought out the hope for me in this movie. In summary, I told you about how this film made me feel nostalgic for my own sister. It made me feel sad over the music and how that related to my own life, and it made me feel hopeful in the end for the goodness of people and the things they're willing to do for others. You know, Jean-Luc may be right. Cinema may be a fraud. But one thing that I know is it's a beautiful fraud. Cinema connects with our most intimate senses and brings us back to the most vulnerable times in our lives. But this isn't a bad thing. Yes, cinema may be a fraud. It may be a fraud with acting and singing and dancing, whatever it may be, but it connects us to the most real selves we can be, and that, I think, is something truly beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. What'd you like?
I'm Justin.
Hi, Justin.
You moved from point to point very smoothly, and there were very few filler words, and it was easy to understand.
Yeah. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Harnor. I think you had a really great speech. I think the beginning and the end were very well paced. In the middle, I think you got a little faster. Yeah. But other than that, it was great.
Yeah. It was a good speech, Natalie. I liked it a lot. And I would like to see you have the good pace and continue to emphasize keywords and work on an emphatic style of delivery. Okay, so yellow keywords and make it come alive. You know, cinema is the most beautiful fraud in the world. You know, make it hang out there so we get it. I guess everyone knows who Jean-Luc Godard is, but maybe not. So maybe famous French filmmaker, you know, wouldn't have been so bad so people don't feel stupid. And that makes him a little bit more of an authority on talking about cinema. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you had a nice quote after that about how the transforming ability of movies and films and storytelling to really transform and transport people, I might add. Yeah. Your thesis preview on Pride and Prejudice and was excellent, with nostalgic, sad, and hopeful. Well put. Come away from the board a little bit. You look like you're afraid. Yeah. Good. That's better. Yeah. Your Rolling Stone quote from Peter Travers, who's pretty, tough on movies sometimes. It can be rather cynical. Begrudgingly gave us a good review, and you agreed, which was fine. You had your Chicago quotes on the first page, 2 of them properly notated at the bottom. You shared with us being a twin and sneaking up to listen to what was going on and Christmas and that sort of thing, and you gave us a feeling of the whole incident of it, and you gave us, a pretty nice rendition of something that you felt nostalgic about. I only would say just a little stronger at the end, and that's why I felt nostalgic, but I also felt sad, a pivot, see. On sad, yes, you had a brief movie quote, which I liked. You shared with us Playing Claire de Lune by Debussy, which is a marvelous piece, and you said that your piano teacher is in a rest home, a nursing home as you put it, and her hands shake, and you remembered the recital that you did with her when she was, feeling better and so forth, and you still were thinking of her decline. Really, that's really what was making you sad, right? And so you needed to come to that and say, and just, her diminished presence in life, it's made me feel so very sad. But besides sad, pivot to hopeful. And on your hopeful, you had a friend that bought, I don't give homeless people money. They just use it on drugs. I'll either offer them a meal, or I usually take white socks or black socks with me when I travel. I give away socks to homeless people. I find they're a very welcome guest, because they can always use socks. And it's not an insult. Anyway, on the issue of the man asking you for moolah, and your friend, and I guess yourself, bought him dinner and spoke with him, was, a very kind thing to do, and generous in spirit. And you needed to say this act of kindness that we see every day from Americans and other people in other countries gives us hope for the world. Your summary was good. Your conclusion was good. Just say, film really did move me, and get that part in an oomph voice. You abbreviated your filmmaker's name, which is okay, to quote him in your end. But you had an excellent tieback, because you used that fraudy part, which was the most vivid part of your quote, when you said, cinema may be a fraud, but it's a fraud that helps us connect to our real selves and lives. So it was a very thoughtful and well done speech. You got what I was after and everything. Just some little bookkeeping things to make it run a little more smoothly. And if you repeat the emotion at the end, it'll be more apparent what emotion you're sensing, Natalie, see? And that's what you want the audience needs to get, that you don't want them to get lost in your story and not know that, well, what about your piano teacher? Well, this is just because I'm sad about all these facts I'm sharing with you. Okay. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
See, do we have time for one more? No, not really. Okay, our time is up. Return with honor.